The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on.
He missed the complete that. He's crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Today's race marks the halfway point for the Pacific Majors 2016 season. Tight battles are shaping up in just about every championship the series has to offer. But in spite of those trophies to claim, there is always the task at hand. And today, that means piloting the most advanced and intense racing cars in the world. Formula One's hybrid era will make its first appearance here on the Global Sim Racing channel, who will be able to step up to the challenge of managing a plethora of systems within the car, all while driving within inches of Circuit Gilles Villeneuve's punishing concrete walls. We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the Canadian Grand Prix, Round 7 of the Pacific Majors. And you're watching it live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Trevor Cameron. Joining us tonight is Sean Ambrose to shed a little light on the McLaren MP430. Behind the scenes is our director Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Trevor, this is something of a home race for you, so why don't you tell us a little bit about the track?
Well, you're right, Joe. As one of the only 2 Canadian tracks on the iRacing service, this place kind of holds a bit of a special place in my heart. If you add on to that it's one of the most fun tracks to drive, and it isn't hard to imagine why this is a favorite for many of the drivers. Ironically, when I first visited this place, I looked at the track map and I thought it didn't look that exciting, with many of the corners having kind of this same-ish look, as you'll notice some of those chicanes there, but it turns out I couldn't have been more wrong when I first actually went out onto this track. This is a 2.71 mile, 4.361 kilometer, and it has 15 turns, and many of those turns are quite technical and demanding. Several of those turns as well actually lead on to really, really fast parts of this track, so expect to see some spins on exit as drivers try to get the power down as early as possible, especially off that Casino hairpin turn 10, which leads to the fastest section of the track. I expect to see plenty of passing attempts there, as well as a couple other places which we'll talk about in a minute, as these drivers unleash the full power of these cars. I am really, really looking forward to this one, guys. Now, let's watch a lap around this historic track driven by one of the drivers you'll see in tonight's race, Jason Fleshley.
All right, we've got Jason Fleshley in the GSRC MP430, so let's do a lap around Montreal. Coming down to turn 1, it's a tricky process of carrying your speed while setting yourself up for the hairpin of 2. The line and curved braking will make passes very difficult to make stick. Be easy on the gas so that you keep traction out of the turn. Heading down to 3 and 4, this is a surprisingly fast right-left, and the wall on the outside is going to collect its fair share of drivers over the course of the race. It's a terrifying flat-out blast through 5, then heavy on the brakes for 6. Keeping tight to widen your exit out of 7 is going to make a big difference. Anyone with understeer might fall victim to the wall, though. From there, it's a short break on the backside of the island before you throw out the anchor for yet another chicane. The curves to the inside of 8 and 9 will bite you, so show them some respect. After that, the track gently curves left before you have the only non-chicane turn of the track, the Casino hairpin. This is one of the best places to pass on the track, but the DRS zone afterwards could make you vulnerable, so weigh your options carefully. Watch out for wheel spin on the exit, which will be incredibly easy to lose time to. Now we're on the backstretch, where DRS passes are likely to cause plenty of back and forth battles between drivers. However, coming up is the infamous Wall of Champions chicane that has embarrassed even the greatest drivers over the years. Spot your brake marker, stay off the curbs, and flirt as close as you dare to that concrete barrier. Hopefully, you kept the car whole and have finished your lap around Montreal. You want to talk about a wild ride. Being on board like that gives you a good idea of how little time there is to react and just how lightning quick these cars are. So let's talk about the Drivers' Championship before we go much farther, and the points on that are looking as such, with Jason Fleshley still on top. Actually, back to the top, I should say. He lost it momentarily, but he's only got 16 points over Rob Gall. Brian Barnes is about 70 points back, and then David Williams in a close fight with him in 4th, 73 back. Jimbo Pfeiffer not far back in 5th as well, 76 markers back from Fleshley, so relatively close fight up at the top for 3rd as well for 1st. Now, let's go to the Constructors' Championship, as drivers can race on teams here in this series. And Sean, what are we looking at?
Well, we're looking at TNT Racing just barely hanging on, only 9 points ahead of Alliance Racing Pretty tight battle up there between the top three. Alliance Racing 9 points back. Mountain West only 10 points back. So there's a real fight there at the top. Dog Bear Blue sitting 90 points back. And Riding Shotgun is definitely riding shotgun back in fifth. 157 points down, Joe.
Then, of course, the other one that we need to worry about, and there's other points battles that we might touch on later if we have a chance, is the Governor's Cup. And that's where each of the clubs within iRacing duke it out. And what are the points like over there, Trevor?
Well, Joe, Texas continues to lead this with 5,295 points, and falling behind 60 points back is last year's champion, the Northwest Club. The West Club sits back 421 points back, and California is way back there with 943 points of deficit between them and the Texas Club, Joe.
Makes me proud to see West not in last place for once, as it being my club. So maybe we're making some in-ground finally. Well, you talked about a little bit at the start of this broadcast, Trevor, that there's some places to pass around here, and you mentioned Casino being a popular one. What are some of the other spots that you think guys are most likely to maybe make an attempt?
Well, the attempt is going to be the key word here, where I'm kind of really looking forward to seeing what these guys do with this place, because this place can be challenging, and I don't know if we haven't talked about it much, but these guys don't have a lot of experience in this car, so it's going to be quite exciting. But I'm expecting to see people making some dives into turn one. If you look down the way at turn 8, which is kind of leading them towards that Casino hairpin, I can see people trying to pass there. And then, of course, there is the infamous, I guess is the word we're going to use here.
Yeah, that works for me.
Going into the Wall of Champions, right at the end of that long straight, there is that little chicane that, the brave people will break it a little bit later than everybody else and try to get some passing going there, and the 2 brave people are going to end up adding their names to that Walls of Champion.
Yeah, and they have that runoff as well, and I'm sure we're going to see our fair share of drivers who outbrake themselves and trying to overtake and have to take that little shortcut and get a slowdown penalty, which is not a whole lot of fun on iRacing, but it's a good way to keep people from taking advantage. And that Wall of Champions, as you said, definitely a danger zone to watch out for. Now, the other big one, Sean, is this start. Now, in previous F1 races we've seen in the Pack Majors, there's been a few problems on the start, and I think this track is going to be no exception.
Ooh, no exception at all, because the very first turn, that leads you down into the center, the left-hander down into center is it's very technical. You've really got to get off the power through center, and you very strategically have to get back on the power out of center without spinning the car. The dash through there, and there's not much runoff. Things could get collected very quickly. We're only getting one fast repair today. You don't want to end 70 laps, a 70-lap race on the first lap. That is just that's going to be really something to watch to see how what we're looking at. About 25 cars try and make their way through there. F1 cars, just about up to full song, heading down to that first left-hander.
Certainly, and we'll talk about cars leaving the race early or prematurely a little bit later as we talk about attrition. But before that, we want to mention the official sponsor here of this series. Volt Vapes has been long-standing supporter of the Pacific Majors, and while we've always tried to give them a shout-out, we want to share a special video that they've prepared for this broadcast and give you a look at what they're about.
Hi, my name is Donovan Johns. I'm the owner-operator of Volt Vapes here in Boise, Idaho. We opened our first location inside the Boise Town Square Mall in February of 2013, and our second location we opened up on the corner of Fairview and Milwaukee in May of 2013. One of the things that we specialize here is in the entry-level and mid-level range hardware and equipment for beginning vapors to really get the concept of vaping down and to feel confident in their education levels so they're not going to be inundated or overwhelmed with some of the higher end mods. One of the things we also do here is we have the build your own kits, which you can pick any of our entry-level, mid-level batteries and tanks and assemble it into your own kit so you can take home exactly what it is you're looking for when you leave the store.
So if you're in the Boise, Idaho area, definitely give those guys' physical store a look. However, if you're not in the Boise, Idaho area, VoltVapes.com can help you as well. We should also mention that the Mario Andretti Racing Experience is a new affiliation with this service, or with this series, excuse me, and that is because their Drivers' Championship has now been named the Mario Andretti Champion Driver of the Year, and it's endorsed by Mario Andretti himself. We couldn't be more proud to have his association with the Pacific Majors here in 2016. We look forward to be able to hand out that trophy, which will be made in his likeness. Now, we talked about the attrition and cars leaving early, especially on that first lap there, Trevor, and you want to take bets on how many are going to be able to make it to the end, because this track, even in real life, just eats up driver and spits him out.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you add into that the fact that these cars are so powerful, and there's so many corners where you're coming off those exits and you're just itching to get the power down. Plus, then you add in the DRS into it, the ERS, and all of the extra buttons these guys are going to be hitting in there. I kind of expect to see at least one person, one of these drivers, to kind of make a mistake because they're busy looking at their buttons that they're not used to having to hit during this race and making a mistake that way too. But I hope that we have a lot of people finishing this race, but I'm kind of expecting that these beasts are just going to kind of eat up some of these guys who aren't used to this style of driving and spit them out.
I'm kind of honestly expecting that too. And for those wondering why we expect such a high attrition rate, if you're new to the Pacific Majors, this series puts the drivers in a variety of cars and a variety of tracks. So all types of racing, big ovals, short ovals, Grand Prix racing, as you can see, as well as other types of road racing throughout the year. The GT3 cars and such. They're actually going to be hopping into the V8 supercars for the last round. That'll be interesting. So these guys are going to be a mix of experiences in the McLaren MP430. Some have driven it quite a bit. Others, this might be their very first race in this car. So it's going to be all over the place in terms of skill levels, although this is the Pro Split, and we should mention that they have the Pro Split and the AM Split and the Pacific Majors, and if you'd like to go watch the AM Split, you can watch it on Off Camber TV. They're going to be airing that concurrently with us here at GSRC. So go ahead and switch back and forth, or if you want, watch ours and watch theirs, or watch theirs first and then watch ours. It's all up to you and what you prefer. Now, the other thing, Sean, that I think is going to be interesting is the drivers who maybe have driven the old Formula One car that they have in this service that used to be the big boy car, I guess you could say, on iRacing. That's the FW31. And what's the big differences that they're going to find between that and the McLaren?
Okay, first of all, this is nothing like the old Williams at all. Okay, don't even begin to think there's a comparison. This car doesn't even feel like an F1 car. It's got a tremendous amount of torque. Really doesn't let you get into the throttle until you're up to about fourth gear. Now, your settings are very, very important. There's a school of thought right now that, your really, really fast guys, maybe the top 10, top 11, are going to be really working the maximum settings. And maybe some of these drivers who are new to the car are going to go something that's very neutral that will get them through 70 laps here. If you're like a Mark Webber and you can't feel the wheel spin, you're going to struggle because this car has way too much throttle, and the rears won't just subtly hook up as you shift through the gears until you really hit about fourth or fifth gear. So it makes this car kind of unique. We talked about the sounds earlier. This car has some really, really unique sounds, which we hope to showcase for you here on the broadcast today. So lots of things to talk about. We'll talk about them as the race goes through, Joe, but I think they're getting ready to grid, buddy.
They are gridding, and as we go through our grid, Troy Schultz is going to be on the pole with his TNT teammate David Williams on the outside. Jimbo Pfeiffer will be starting third, with Jason Fleischle, our championship leader, in fourth. Richie Hearn starts in the fifth position, showing he can do road and oval. Lionel Kalisto in sixth, Michael Lane in seventh, and Kyle Burney in eighth. Michael B. Thompson starts in ninth, and outside the fifth row, Paul Slavonic. Trevor?
In 11th position, we have Wayne Hutchinson, Brian Barnes in 12th, Brian Bennett in 13th, 14th is Rob Gall, Sam Bourne in 15th, 16th is Taft Baldwin, Christopher Sherbin 17th, Bob Beltrami in 18th, David Warner 19th, and 20th we have Clark Archer. Sean?
All right, I'll take the rest of the field. It's going to be Brett Trozen there in 21st. Ray Partridge 22nd, Kyle Murphy 23rd, Mike Franklin 24th, and Aaron Stowe going to round out this 25-car field.
Perfect timing because we have the lights getting ready to come up here. Engines are revving in those McLarens. A lot of anticipation. Lights are out, and they accelerate towards the first corner. It looks like it's a bad start from David Williams. They're in second place. Is he going to lose it? A little bit of contact between them right in front of the field. This is not good. They get out of the way, though, and they are off course. This is going to promote, who is that to second position? Jason Jason Fleischle. Wow.
Oh, and Jimbo Pfeiffer still having trouble. He's up in the wall. Hasn't even made it to the chicane yet. Jimbo having real trouble with that double aught McLaren.
And Jimbo was the one that got into the side of David Williams. His car is struggling. I'm pretty sure. Well, no, his day isn't over because they do have a fast repair in this series, but he's going to be severely disadvantaged. Let's look at the replay. This looks like the second incident. Oh, no, we're going to go back to the beginning and watch that contact here. You can see he gets a good start. He looks up the inside, which was fair, but I think just because you start to run out of room with the car understeering, it looks like they came together side by side. I'm going to watch it one more time here, Trevor.
And I tell you, Joe, I love watching the starts of F1 races with these standing starts. This is awesome. As he goes, like I said, he went to the inside, got a little tight, ran out of room, and at the beginning there is no room, and Jimbo paid the price for that for sure.
And Brian Bennett making his way into the pit, coming down all the way down pit lane. Really long trip down there. Bennett peeling off now as the rest of the field gets by. The leaders making their way already back up the other side of the track.
I would like to note that Troy Schultz seems like he's having some connection problems. His car is disappearing momentarily every once in a while. But the good news for him is he is way out in front right now. So as long as he stays away from traffic, he should be okay. If the guys get close and they start fighting, that's not going to be good for either party, though.
No, for sure, Joe. I mean, this is there are some sections here where you have a lot of room, but there's a lot of sections where it gets really tight and those trees just kind of close in and make you feel claustrophobic. So if you have a guy who's blinking a little bit, that could get pretty dicey.
Oh, and it looks like Michael Thompson and Paul Savanik had a big coming together. And unfortunately, that sent both of them around in turn 6, it looks like. Both are able to get going, though. Let's look at that replay. This was still in the thick of the pack, I think, on lap 2 here, as you see him starting to get going. Both of them had to sit and wait for the entire field to go by. There you can see them trying to get the cars turned around, but there's just no place to go as he sneaks across the track.
Ooh, that was a little bit tight there, but made it work.
Well, our leader, Troy Schultz, just got around Jimbo Pfeiffer, who's got the car back on the track. Troy able to get by him clean. But Jimbo back up to speed now. Going to have to try and make up that lap. He's lost.
And I don't think he's going to be able to do that with no cautions, no full course yellows here in this series, at least for the road courses. Unless he's got a sudden bout of speed, I don't think you're going to see him taking that lap back. So, it sounds like Stowe is stopped on course. This was over in turn 6 once again.
That is such a tricky place, Joe. I mean, it looks like the rest of the corners there, but you go in there and, man, for some reason, the grip level there is really hard. So I know I've lost it a lot of times trying to go in that corner with too much speed.
Yeah, and it's a little bit uphill as you make the left-hander there, and it's hard to switch it back to the right real quick. And then, of course, getting on the power out of that is even trickier.
Whoa, Barnes joins the wall of champions, it looks like, and I think that was Wayne Hutchison he was battling with. Wow, behind them, that caused a chain reaction with guys almost going 3 wide into there. Barnes getting on the radio to apologize. Fortunately, that meant Wayne Hutchison lost out to Clark Archer. Tense moments for everybody. Oh, and Richie Hearn is into the wall. Once again, in turn 6. This is Calamity Corner this time.
Oh, boy. And, Richie backing up there almost gets into oncoming traffic. He's able to get the car back under power. Got a little bit of front wing damage.
Yeah, just a little bit of a tap on the Armco, but I have to imagine these cars are probably sensitive to the aero.
Oh, are they?
Understatement of the year, I'm sure.
Yeah, especially here where you're wide open so much. The aero is so very important if you wish to, get in somebody's draft and make a difference. Does look like Richard is okay, but again, he had a little bit of damage on that left front wing.
Well, this puts him down the order. In fact, he's in the thick of it now. He's 15th, and he's got a lot of cars around him. But let's update you since things have shuffled around, even up at the top with cars running into trouble. Troy Schultz still leading Fleischle, as we said, up to second after that terrible start for Williams and Pfeiffer. Kalisto gets bumped up into third position. Kyle Burney, good race for him. We're not used to seeing him up at the top in fourth. And then Sam Boren is currently rounding out the top 5.
Yeah, I kind of expect to see some names that we don't see a lot. I mean, for people who follow the Pacific Majors, I mean, there's, some guys that you expect to see towards the front, but I kind of expect to see some new names today with some guys who might really take to this style of car.
Certainly, and they do get to drive the IndyCar, but I believe they only do those on ovals in this series. So a little bit of a different beast out here. Certainly just as complex to set up.
Yeah, and having some experience driving the DW12, I can tell you it reacts just so much differently than this car does. This car is it's really something for the future, even though it's not being used currently. It's just amazing how quickly this car responds to any movement you make, whether it be to the throttle, the brake, or to the steering input.
And we ride on board Wyatt Hutchinson. You get a good view of the DRS system opening up on the back. He's chasing Clark Archer, but he's also being hunted down by Taft Baldwin, who's pretty close on him. And then they get a double dose as it opens up once again here down the front stretch.
Yeah, and those DRS zones are going to be very important today because now you have to be within a second of the car in front of you to engage it. There are a couple lights on your steering wheel that let you know there's a green light at the top left that'll illuminate when you're approaching the zone. And then if you can get to use that DRS, 2 lights will illuminate, and then you can hold that button down just as long as you want to use it at the risk of, depleting your ERS resources.
Well, as long as they want until they break at least. And felt like I was with Martin Brundle for a moment. Meanwhile, we're on 13th with Brett Trocine trying to hunt down Bob Beltrami. Also has Richie Hearn with him. Hearn obviously trying to make up for his mistake.
With a big battle with Bernie.
Oh wow, Bernie has closed in. Actually, no, that's Aaron Stowe. Oh, and Brett Trocine gets into some contact. That Haas livery car is not having a good day. That was Richie Hearn once again, just tipping the back of him.
Yeah, I'm sorry that Kalisto and Stowe were side by side there for a moment, and I had realized that Stowe was in the back of the field, lapped down, unfortunately.
I will
tell you what, Kalisto is making a pretty good charge on Fleischle right now. He's working on him. Only about a second and a half back.
Just a few more tenths, and he could get into that DRS zone and see what he can do on him. And Brian Barnes also having a terrible day as he's spun. Let's see, this was in turn 4, it looks like. Well, this is a spot I expected more people to have trouble, but not necessarily due to a spin, more because of that wall to the outside. Now, good news for Barnes is, as we look at the replay, you see he didn't really hit anything, just kind of spun it off to the side.
Ooh. And that's what it's hard to not. I think you made some contact there. It's kind of hard not to hit stuff here. Like once you start spinning, you lose control of the car. You're out on that grass usually, and then you have no control.
Kalisto just had a very scary moment at the Wall of Champions.
And behind him on screen, we saw that David Williams managed to overtake Kyle Burney. He has got the bit between his teeth. I guess he doesn't have too much damage from that early contact and is trying to make up time. Williams definitely one of the guys that I expected to do well today, but he's certainly given himself a rough time of it.
And looking back through the pack, I was listening to race control there. It looked like Michael Thompson received a 30-second black flag, a stop and go, or not stop and go, but a 30-second sit in your pits and think about what you've done penalty. I'm not sure what that was for, but that has certainly put him way down the running order. Obviously, live stewards in the Pacific Majors, Mike Willett behind the scenes, making sure that everything is copacetic between the drivers. And meanwhile, see, Clark Archer is having an off, and he loses multiple positions. Looks like he just overshot. Take a guess which corner. Number 6 again. As I say, was it turn 6, Joe?
It was indeed.
Well, honestly, turn 6, it's very understandable. I think it challenges the best of drivers. You're really coming full bore down to that turn off of a right-hand kink. As you head down in there, you've got to get off. You get out of the kink. You've got to get off of the power really quick to get into some hard braking. If you don't do it just right, it is easy to run off and into that garage sale area, we like to call there at the end, the runoff there.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, as we watch Archer continue on, Richie Hearn is rocked up to the back of him. He's had a number of troubles already, and he's going to have another as he clatters across the curb. Thankfully, doesn't hit anything other than that curb. But the lost time means that now he's got David Warner right behind him within a couple of tenths.
Yeah, Hearn, that car has been a handful for him. He's done some pretty good work to make up a couple of spots, but Warner hot on his tail right now.
And guys, if you thought we've had a lot of action, take a look at the lap counter. We're only on lap 9 here. We still got 61 more to go.
Yeah, and we kind of expected this. This isn't a very long track, so, I mean, people are going to be in and around traffic a lot. And like I said, other than that Casino Straight, you're in the turns an awful lot here. So there's a lot of places to have errors and unforced errors, as they were.
So we watch Kyle Murphy in 14th. He is just behind David Warner, who you can see flashes of on screen. Ahead of him, though, we've got quite a battle for position. Just in front, Taft Baldwin, Rob Gall, Beltrami, and Clark Archer all still very close together. And this is for 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Rob Gall opening up the DRS right there before the Wall of Champions.
He gets it done, though.
Yeah, he does. Nice move there by Mr. Gall. He'll take that spot away, move himself on up into 8th place.
Still not streaking away, and just look at how tightly close these guys are together. Taft Baldwin now has to worry about Beltrami behind him as they come down into 3. Not usually a passing zone. Everybody going single file, making sure. Oh, and a big mistake from Baldwin. Goes into the wall, coming out of 4.
Oh, he lost it hard. He hit that inside Armco. Trying to get the car spun around still. Got traffic coming through. He's got to be really careful. Here we are on the replay, on board with Taft Baldwin. Makes the exit out. Maybe just a little bit too much throttle there on the curb. Sends him right around.
Yeah, I was going to say that looked like a lot of curb to me with the car just bouncing over it. Unfortunately, was stuck in an Austin Powers situation. Couldn't get it turned around until he had plenty of clear space.
Yeah, he has got it going again, but that front wing is looking pretty mangled right now, so I'm guessing we might see him in the pits there, but looks like he's not too far off speed, although I'd expect the aero to be very compromised at this point in time.
Well, let's see how he gets through the hairpin here.
Let's take a glance at Kyle Burney, who's still behind David Williams. Remember, we watched him pass him earlier, but Burney's not letting go. And unfortunately, he's having some issues with his connection, it looks like, as you can see, blinking quite a bit. Behind them is Sam Bourne as well, and he's fairly close to this 3-way battle for what is essentially 4th place. Now, we haven't even touched on one aspect of F1 racing, and that is the pit stops. Now, that is also going to be a little bit different from the FW31 there, Sean.
Yeah, it is, because you start with a full tank of fuel, about 216 kilos, and That's all you get to start this race. Well, 216 will get it done. Full tank, I think, is 216.3 or 219, something like that. But to be honest with you, there's no refueling, so you're going to have to do with that. If you're coming in the pits, it's because you had trouble. Taft did make his way. Taft Baldwin made his way in the pit, making his way out of the pit box now. I'm assuming he probably took that free repair, unless he just needed a nose change, and he may not have needed to use it.
No, I was actually watching him there, Sean, and he was in and out in 2.2 seconds, so he definitely took that fast repair because those guys are good, but they can't change a nose that quick.
No, not that quick.
He's got the Williams team out there.
Yeah. What was that, Joe? It was like a
1.8 seconds or something like that for all 4 tires. Yeah, that was phenomenal.
I saw the video. It's insane. Absolutely insane.
Well, as this battle rages on, we switch back to Baldwin there in 21st. It looks like that's Jimbo Pfeiffer, our 3rd place starter, well down the order.
Yeah, it's awfully hard to recover. I mean, we've said it before. In certain styles of racing, you want to make mistakes. If you're going to make them, you want to make them early. But when you don't have full course cautions or safety cars, as these guys call it, it doesn't matter. You just don't make a mistake, or else your race is basically compromised from that point on.
Unfortunate to see. Let's jump back to Clark Archer. We saw him battling a little bit earlier. He's still pretty tightly closed on the rear of Bob Beltrami as they head down into the casino hairpin. They've got Rob Gall ahead of them. Oh, and a big bobble coming out of the corner from Beltrami. Is this going to give the opportunity to Archer? I believe he's within the DRS zone. Let's see if that flap opens up. And there it is. Down into the braking, just not quite close enough.
Well, and Joe, we talked about bravery when it comes to that particular section of the track, and you add on to it the DRS. And in case our viewers don't know, it opens up that flap, which basically takes away a bunch of downforce because you're going in a straight line and you don't need it. And that flap will stay open until you tell it to close or until you hit the brakes. So waiting till the last possible moment before you hit that last section of corners before the Wall of Champions, it's also with that extra horsepower and without the extra ability to turn, so even braver because you're going to have that extra speed from the DRS flap being open, and you want to keep it open as long as possible, but not sail off.
Well, they also do have the advantage of a push to pass, which basically takes the energy system and puts it on its basically most aggressive deployment rate and gives them that extra boost that they need. I think it's 160 horsepower is the extra boost they get out of that.
Not a small amount. Now, speaking of aggressive, as we look at P11, I was actually keeping an eye a little bit farther down on Richie Hearn as he's in 12th, and he's trying to make his way back up. Remember, we saw multiple mistakes from him, and he's got David Warner just ahead of him. Unfortunately, it looks like Warner's starting to streak away in the most critical spot. Hearn closing up under braking. See what he can do with another dose of DRS coming out of the final corner, and I don't think he's quite close enough.
I talked about those lights on the steering wheel. You actually do get another DRS opportunity, I believe. They're down the front straight across the line. And drivers know when they have that. If you don't see the marker because you're traveling way too fast, you do have that reminder on your steering wheel.
Absolutely, and yes, they do get another dose of it. 2 of them as Richie Hearn almost gets into the back of Warner. Warner rocking that old school Marlboro McLaren scheme. He's now on the back of Clark Archer. He takes a little bit of a look, but he backs out of it. However, Archer gives him space, and he goes off track because of it. He's going to get a cut course slowdown penalty, giving 2 positions up in 1. Here comes Richie Hearn. Can he get 2 spots in 2 corners? Not quite, but he is going to have the DRS one more time here. And look at that car just squirm under the power.
He can take the DRS, or he can choose to, get on the power by hitting that push to pass here. That'll give him even more boost than just opening up that flap.
Let's stay on this, but Brett Trocine has headed in for his pit stop, and a terrible exit out of the Wall of Champions for Richie Hearn means that he is nowhere near David Warner down into 1.
Yeah, I was looking at Brett Trezine there, sitting in the pit stall, because I noticed he was staying in his pit stall, and he has some significant damage on the front end of that car, and I'm guessing he does not have his fast repair left, because he's sitting there, and I guess waiting for them to repair it, so he is losing a lot of time.
I'm not sure there, because I didn't show he had been in previously. Kind of odd, and it could be a hardware problem for him, you never know.
Yeah, and it could
Ray
be
Partridge almost lost it coming in out of the first turn, heading into Senna.
It could be a glitch, too, because I've had it where I've been in races where you've had that fast repair, and for some reason your crew just decides to not bother repairing your car and giving you a new car. I guess they forgot to pack one.
Go out for ice cream.
There you go. Maybe they can join Kimmy. So, just to update you, since it's been a while, we're on lap 16 now. Schultz still leading the way. Fleischle, 13, almost 14 seconds back from him. So Schultz is starting to really put some distance on the field. David Williams has caught back up to the podium. He's in third. Lionel Callisto is down to fourth. We missed that pass somewhere along the line. And Kyle Burney still having his connection issues, currently in fifth, with Sam Bourne not too far behind him.
Yeah, David Williams just having to get past Taft Baldwin. Does it pretty clean. But David really looking good now. It looks like he's back, guys.
Boy, you talk about that Marine attitude, and it's just never give up with David Williams. That's why he was last season's champion.
Ooh, actually, I was just watching our leader, Troy Schultz, and he just completely blew the last set of corners heading towards the wall of champion and had to shortcut it.
We're going to look at that replay. Now, like I said, he's got a huge gap. And this is down into the braking of that final chicane. He smartly just continues on all the way until that little wall at the end there. That's because that little yellow thing is a curb, and you do not want to drive the car over that.
But I guess you can afford to make little bobbles here and there if you have an 11-second lead on the field.
It looks like he lost about 3 seconds. And such is his lead, he's still 10 ahead of Jason Fleischle. Now, he can't make too many of those, obviously. But he's got a bit of a gap that he can now possibly not push as hard if he needs to back it up a little bit.
Well, yeah. I think you definitely want to take care of the car. You still have a lot in front of you. You got a nice, comfortable lead. But again, we talked about this before. It is easy as a leader when you get a nice, comfortable lead like that to lose focus sometimes. So Troy got to, beware of that and keep his guard up.
We've jumped up to 6. Sam Bourne still on the back of Kyle Burney. This has been going on for multiple laps now. Loses a little bit of ground coming out of 9, unfortunately. Just behind them, they recently lapped Taft Baldwin, who dutifully got out of the way. Now, it's not like real-world F1, where the blue flags cause the guys to have to jump out of the way per the rules. That doesn't mean that guys should try and hold people up, however, as it doesn't certainly make you friends out on the track.
Yeah, and let's not even get into a conversation about blue flags and F1. As any F1 fans watched the last race, that was getting into a bit of ridiculous territory. So I'm glad we don't have that here.
Absolutely. It should be a driver's skill being able to overtake backmarkers as well. Backmarkers being able to give it away without losing very much time. And we're seeing that right here with Mike Franklin just getting a little bit in the way, but managing to get out of Sam Bourne's way there so he can continue to fight Burney, but now with multiple seconds up the road.
Ooh, Taft Baldwin with a little contact there with Mike Franklin. That was a spot. Mike taking that spot away, or I'm sorry, Taft taking that spot away from Mike.
Up into 20th. Now every position counts. They just went. That was Brian Bennett. Now where did he spin from? I don't think it was in the upper reaches, but he's now down to 21st.
I think it was off the exit there. I think he lost it coming off the exit of the turn.
Yeah, I believe he was getting lapped, so he was not among the lead cars there.
Yeah, and watching him there, I'm not entirely sure what happened there. He looked like the line was fairly clean. It was a conservative line by the looks of it, but I think he just got to the gas a little bit too aggressively there.
Well, this is not going to do much for Alliance Racing. You can see those guys driving for them as we switch to Troy Schultz, their competitor, TNT Racing. They're going to have a very nice day with Williams in third, Schultz in first. Now, I'm sure they'd like to make that a 1-2, make it a Mercedes-like performance, but they've got to get past Jason Fleischle. And right now, there's about 8 seconds up the road between Williams and Jason.
Boy, it didn't take Troy Schultz long to recover. Said he had lost about 3 seconds. He's back to about the almost 13-second lead again.
Just an impressive performance, but it's not over yet. As we said, only on lap 19. So Troy's got a ways to go, and he's got to hope that internet connection holds out. We still see him blinking every once in a while.
You know, it's not just him either. There's a few guys in here having connection issues this evening, and I'm beginning to wonder if it's maybe just a service problem more so than it is the individual drivers. So I'm certainly we've seen a little bit of that here in recent past, but hopefully it doesn't affect the outcome of this race, Joe.
Absolutely. It'd be a shame to see it end prematurely, and I was actually wondering that myself with multiple cars blinking, if Mike had accidentally put it on a European server or something.
Well, it is F1 racing, so, I mean, that would be appropriate, even though we are in Canada, so.
Well, and they're all American clubs racing in this field, so. Meanwhile, Clark Archer had a bit of a problem. Now, I thought he was one of the drivers that was within the top 10, and where is he now, actually?
He's back in 15th, Joe.
He had a bit of an off back, and I believe it was turn 8. He got back on without contacting anything.
Yeah, and he seems to be back up to speed. Last lap wasn't that bad. It wasn't his fastest lap, but just maybe struggling just a little bit right now. We've seen several guys struggling with their cars. He's in 15th, though, and let's see, Michael Lane is actually closing on him right now. That's going to work out to be a pretty decent battle.
In fact, let's stay on this, and just some information. This is somewhat flattered by them having a spare car, but our only DNF so far, 25th, Brett Trocine, is out of the race. 24th is Ray Partridge, still driving around, but he's 2 laps down already. So we watch Lane and Archer continue trying to stalk one another. Let's go up to the 8th position. Because, wow, actually very close here because Warner's got to run. DRS helping him down into the braking zone. Can he get it stopped in time? Nice and tidy at the apexes. Add 1 for David Warner.
Boy, I'll tell you what, that's about as good as entry and exit you'll see at speed. That was a beautiful trip through the Wall of Champions there by Warner. Gall just happy to follow him without wrecking the car. A lot of time for Gall on screen this evening. He's been involved in several battles. Doing a pretty good job, though. The car's still clean.
Still a top 10 for Rob Gall in that 9th position. And he's dropping back a little bit from Warner, so I think Warner was indeed outpacing him. So unless we see a mistake from David, I think he can solidly say he's got that spot.
David charging pretty hard right now.
Tell you what, who else has been charging continually? Richie Hearn now back up to Bob Beltrami. And this is going to be for the 10th position, top 10 actually. I'm amazed that actually Richie's been able to get that far back up, especially with all the troubles we've seen, and he's going to get handed it right here as Beltrami goes way wide at the casino hairpin, and there goes Hearn just streaking away.
Yeah, that's a great recovery by Richie Hearn there to come back from that one mistake a little bit earlier. That's as we mentioned, it's hard to kind of come back from having a little bit of an error, but Richie's making the best of it here.
Not quite so clean through the Wall of Champions chicane. That allows Beltrami to close up a little bit, but nothing doing down into turn 1. Both drivers looking nice and tidy through there. Take a look at Brian Barnes, though, because he is within a car length of Kyle Murphy, and he gets himself a good run off of the corner. This is 4 position down into 3 and 4. I said it's not usually a spot, but Barnes says I'm going to make it one, and he takes another position.
Nicely done by Brian there.
Meanwhile, I believe Slavonic behind them is also for position. So these guys, all three, very closely together. And Archer, oh, big problems for Archer. He's in the wall. And he fell victim to what we've seen real-world drivers have happen there coming out of 7, Sean.
Yeah, tough, tough break, man. It's just, the car gets very light through there. You gotta be packing a lot of downforce, and you can't stay on that throttle wide open. If you do, the car will come around, and he might have just been on the gas a little bit too much through there.
It looks like he actually put wheels in the dirt, much like we saw, I think it was Romain Grosjean at one point during the Canadian Grand Prix this year. Although Romain was able to keep it moving forward and Clark Archer was not.
No, Clark has taken a tow, so he is back in his pit stall. So that is going to be a race over for Mr. Archer, basically.
We've moved up to second and now third between Fleischle and Williams. That gap has only come down about a little less than a second. So Williams is catching him, and he's still got a lot of race left to do it, but it's having to be a very slow, chipping away, sort of methodical process for him.
Speaking of chipping away, David Warner chipping away at the lead Hutchinson had on him, and now Warner gets through the hairpin. He is now within a second, can open that DRS flap and maybe make a move here coming into the Wall of Champions, but they got a car in between. They kind of broke that up.
That's Franklin who gets out of the
Mike
way.
Franklin.
Everybody gets through the chicane fine. Meanwhile, Schultz has a big spin. This is down in, actually coming out of the hairpin. Looking a bit like Kimi Räikkönen here. This is what you've been talking about, Sean, the power in these cars coming out of the corner.
He just goosed it a little bit too much right there coming out. Sends it around. Now Fleischle only 7 seconds behind in closing.
Yeah, I was going to say that cost him a whole lot more this time, and somewhere in that, David Williams gained around a second on Fleischle. So first, second, and third have closed up all together.
Yeah, now Schultz has to get back to work, get back to, putting in some good laps and focus. Ooh, he has a little trouble coming out of 6 almost slapped it a little wide, almost got contact with the wall. Taking this left-hander. It looks like Williams going to be okay. He's back into a rhythm, it looks like.
Yeah, and you got to remember as well is he was out in the grass there, and iRacing does model the fact that you get debris on your tires, and that does affect your grip level. So those first couple of corners, he looked a little dicey as he was waiting for the grass to come flying off those tires.
We have information from the stewards. The incident at the start of the race between Williams and Pfeiffer has been deemed a racing incident, so no action is going to be taken there. And I'm kind of glad that that's going to be the case, because it's very hard to figure out if someone was too aggressive at the start. That's a very important time of the race.
I keep going back to this battle between David Warner and Wayne Hutchinson. It still rages on. Warner is right there to him. And it's it's a good one. He might get him here. Warner looking for an opportunity. They head out of Concord. Down the straight.
Ooh, wow. He had a great run, but he backed out at the last moment. I'm trying to figure out if the paint scheme is a custom one there on Hutchinson or not, because it almost looks like McLaren versus Ferrari here.
Down into the hairpin they come.
This is that important point where you got to get the power down, but you can't get too much wheel spin. And Warner does a decent job of it. He's going to have the DRS, but is he within range to try and slip by? I don't think he is.
No, I'm amazed he didn't actually catch up a little better there, because he had the DRS, he probably had the boost button pressed, and barely seemed to make inroads on him.
And speaking of the buttons, that's one thing that I think was mentioned when this car was released on iRacing, is a lot of drivers, as Warner goes a little wide on the first corner there, a lot of drivers mentioned they're not sure if they're going to have enough buttons for all that you need to do in the car.
Well, I mean, and it's, you can have a button box and that's fine, but for stuff for the boost button where you actually have to keep it pressed down, or the DRS where you have to hit it at the exact moment while you're, hands on the wheel, you have to have those within reach where you're not taking your hands off. And that can be challenging because you have, your communication buttons and your pit stop buttons and, everything else. Whoa!
Oh, David Warner!
Oh, Warner is in the wall and upside down.
Oh, and he plants it in there. He's going to have to tow there, obviously.
Unfortunately, it looks like a little bit of a glitch is going to cause him a tow that he really did not want after a great run. As we watch this replay, we should mention that David Williams is in the pit, and we also had Fleischle and Callisto take their stop. So a bunch of top runners have gone in for tires. Now you see Williams exiting out in 5th position.
Well, and now that we have drivers coming in and starting their pit stop, let's make a mention of the way this pit stall works here. Is the fact that when you're coming off that fast casino straight, you basically just don't make that last turn, and that can be confusing if you have somebody close up on you, where all of a sudden you don't brake and you head straight into that pits. And the exit is no less confusing because you're coming out, and the guys coming out of the pits actually have a straighter run than the guys who are on the track, and they basically just get dumped right out in the middle of the first turn. So that can actually lead to some problems as these guys start to make pit stops.
Really good idea to call that pit stop out here because you don't want to catch guys off guard in that braking zone.
Indeed, almost a NASCAR-like mentality that you have to have about saying pitting in. Meanwhile, we were watching our leader Schultz. We've switched to Kyle Burney, who's moved up to 2nd, but has yet to pit. In fact, our highest pitter is Jason Fleischle currently.
Now, one of the things they haven't simulated here in iRacing is the tire compounds. Everybody using the same tire, unlike F1, so you don't have another choice when you come in. You're just basically getting a fresh set of tires that you're going back out cold on, essentially. I don't believe there's any real warming going on with them, so yeah, that outlap going to be pretty treacherous for these guys trying to get back going after coming in for a pit stop.
Actually, I do believe they have tire warmers in iRacing models. I know they do for the GT3 car, so I'd have to imagine they have it for the McLaren.
And that's a good point. I maybe didn't research that just quite enough.
But you bring up a great point, Sean, because fans of F1, I mean, that is one of the key things you're going to watch in a race, and it's kind of disappointing we don't have it yet. I know they have been talking about different tire compounds, but that's usually becomes a key factor in your strategy as to which tires you're going to use at which point in the race. So hopefully we'll get that before these guys maybe use these cars again.
And if there's one thing I could hope for, and I'm not sure that this is going to be the case, it's that if they do get those 2 compounds, would they give them the ability to try to no-stop the race? I'd love to see drivers doing that again, but current rules in F1, unfortunately, we're not going to see that anytime soon. So, as we watch 13th, Kyle Murphy. He's got that's not Jimbo Pfeiffer behind him. That's Slavonic, actually. He's trying to chase down in 12th place.
Well, I wonder, Schultz still having a pretty good run. Does he stay out?
I believe
come in?
from what I heard from drivers, we're looking at 2 stops for just about everybody. It's going to be the optimal plan. So I don't see anybody really doing more or less unless they're, or at least more unless they run into problems somewhere along the way. Less, I'd like to see that actually.
Well, I mean, we're about to hit the halfway point of this race. We're not far away from it at all, and Schultz still got that car out there. So does Kyle Burney. There's a few drivers throughout this field who have not brought those cars in yet, halfway in. So I'm beginning to wonder what that strategy might be for some of these guys.
Yeah, and I'm actually wondering as well, because, I mean, Schultz has had a couple of offs here, so, I mean, those tires aren't going to be at their prime because he's going to have, at least a little bit of flat spotting or, a little bit of wear and tear, and I can't imagine that he's not spinning because of some of that wear, so I think he's being kind of brave here right now.
And Callisto making a pass there for that 6th position, and that makes me wonder if we need to worry about what we usually worry about in real F1 races, and that is the undercut. Is Schultz losing time? What's his lap times look like, actually? Whoa, and Rob Gall off track. What happened to him?
Ooh, Rob back on screen for not a good reason, unfortunately.
Oh, that was wheel spin coming out of the casino chicane, and I think that was helped just a little bit by hitting the curb. Thankfully, he stayed off the wall. Second place is about to change hands, but this is off strategy between these drivers. Bernie yet to take his stop. Jason Fleischle is coming up on him, and I think this should be an easy move for him.
Now we know Bernie had some connection issues earlier. Looks like he's pretty stable now. Hopefully Fleischle can buy him without incident. Bernie giving him a call right now, telling him to come on by.
So I'm getting some word that there were some drivers that did plan on trying a three-stopper. Now we're not really seeing that from Troy Schultz, and usually the theory is as the car gets lighter, the pit stops get farther apart because the tire wear is less. But we're still yet to see one from Troy. So this is, I wonder if he really is going to try a one-stopper.
Lots of traffic back here.
Yeah. We didn't really talk about this pre-race, but this is proving to be a significant factor here as Troy Schultz is getting very held up by Kyle Murphy. Now he slips on by down to the casino hairpin, has to worry about Rob Gall locking him up in front of him, though.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder, does Troy have somebody on the box, crew chiefing for him and taking a look at the gap and seeing, when would be the best place to come out, to make that pit stop so that he comes out into clean air. Oof. Because, that's something you'd have as he makes a brave move to get around there.
On Rob Gall lapping traffic, those two almost made contact.
Looks like Hutchinson and Herner in the pits right now.
Troy doesn't have to push right now either. I mean, he's 31 seconds to the good. And, if he doesn't push, then who knows how long he can keep that car out here.
All right, so looking at lap times, it looks like Fleischle is running consistently in 119s, 118s. Schultz is a little bit more all over the place. Now, this could be because he's taking it easy with traffic. He is in the 118s most recently. Last one being a 121 with that lap traffic, and a bit ago he had a 120. So he's comparable on pace, and he's not close enough, really. I don't think that they do need to worry about the undercut.
No, and it doesn't look like it's affecting him. And another thing that's affecting this race is, if we look at our leader, right now he's coming up on 9th position to lap him. I mean, he has a large majority of this field a lap down now by not pitting.
I want to say the last F1 race we had at the Pacific Majors, which was Interlagos, he puts a lap on Slavonic there. I want to say we only had 3 cars on the lead lap when all was said and done. So it's just a testament to how challenging these cars are to drive. And I'll tell you what, I hear people say that all the F1 drivers aren't challenged today and the cars are too easy, because of the lack of downforce. Boy, I'd like to challenge any of those people that say the cars are easy to hop into this McLaren and say same thing after 70 laps.
Yeah,
no kidding.
Not easy at all.
All right, Joe. I'm going to put the commentator's curse and just give a quick shout out to Lionel Callisto. We've talked about him several laps. Anybody who follows Pacific Majors knows that he has had some strong cars the last few races that we've been watching here, and has had some bad luck. Some things not go his way, and he's sitting there strong in 6th position, having a great run. So I've been pulling for him every week because I feel bad for his bad luck. So I'm trying not to put the curse on him, but I want to make sure that we point out that he's having a good run today.
Yeah, like you said, in 6, and he's made his stop, so he could still yet cycle up more, because Boren, Bernie, and Schultz have yet to make their first stop. As we try to scratch our heads and figure out what is going on with a few of these leaders here with their pit strategy, 33 laps into the race. With 2 more laps, we're going to be halfway in.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem like it. It seems like we just got started a few minutes ago.
I know. And Sean alluded to it earlier, and just to make that point, these guys are not dependent on fuel. Typically, you're going to make that pit stop based on your fuel strategy, but this is going to be entirely based on tire preservation and tire wear here. So it's kind of in his hands right now. He's not going to have to stop because he's running low on fuel. He's going to have to stop when he thinks that he can't drive this car anymore.
Well, and
He has
last
the
two
whole
laps
world in his hands.
last 2 laps he's done 119.5, 119.8. So he's going a little slow comparatively because Fleischle last ones were a 118.6 and 118.7. So almost a second faster.
Jason's digging right now. He wants to try and close that gap, anticipating maybe that Schultz will take a pit stop at some point. But Joe, I go back to the whole theory of, listen, if you can take care of the tires enough and you're almost 30 seconds to the good, maybe don't stop at all.
I haven't driven this car in a race situation before, so I really couldn't tell you.
And
as we see Brian Barnes and Jimbo Pfeiffer come in for stops.
I didn't put in 70 laps without a stop either, so not sure. The car gets pretty wicked after 10 laps on these tires, so no doubt our leader, Troy Schultz, got his hands full.
Let's go to second place because David Williams has now run down Jason Fleischle. He's within a second. This is going to be a fantastic battle between these two. I've been waiting to see this. Yeah. And one thing to think about with Fleischle is, remember, he's fighting for the championship. And right now, his biggest threat is Rob Gall, who's down in 9th, who's having a bad race today. And Fleischle goes defensive in a 6. He definitely feels under threat here. So does Fleischle fight hard here, or does he accept the 3rd place knowing that he's still going to gain points on his main competitor?
Fleischle's a racer. He's going to dig. He wants to win this race.
And if I remember right, he hasn't won since round 1, I want to say. So it's been a while for him. Fellow Coloradoan out here, originally from Wyoming. Fighting with, actually, where is Williams from again? I'm trying to remember. Is he at West Club as well? I'm not actually sure where Williams is from specifically. West Club includes a few different states, including, I believe, Wyoming is in that. Idaho is in there, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I really like about my group, Texas, because, you know where everybody's from. We're all from Texas, baby.
There's no confusion there.
There you go. Meanwhile, poor Trevor has the entirety of his country all in one.
And Schultz has made that pit stop, so the guessing game is over. Looks like he went halfway.
Look at where he came out. He is only a half second ahead. We have 1st, 2nd, and 3rd all together here.
Yeah, they got bunched up real quick. It's a great pit stop by Schultz.
Those mistakes must have cost Troy Dealer, and we were not paying close enough attention to where the gap was.
But we know where it's at now, Joe, so we didn't miss that. He's got company and traffic in front of him to navigate through here coming into the hairpin.
Jumps out of the way, sees the second one coming, gets out of the way of him. That was Michael Lane. They've got one more ahead of them. That's Bob Beltrami they've got to overtake.
And of course Schultz, because even though Beltrami is not on the same lap, Schultz does still get the DRS from him, and that'll help him hold off those guys, at least for this small section of the course.
Williams not able to do anything in either DRS zone this time by. Still, the gap between the top 3, only 1.6 seconds. Schultz able to get by Beltrami, but now Fleischle held up just a little bit. This allows Williams to get right back up on him, but he's not close enough down into 3. Pressure is on. Look at Williams close.
Yeah, Williams is dogging him right now. He's all over him. Here we go, down into a really tough left-hander.
Here is where we see what these drivers are made of. It's one thing to drive the GT3 cars at the max around here. And here's Williams to the inside. He's got to run. Fleischle does not defend. And Williams has got it. Can he get it rode up? He does. Second place for David. Oh, but he makes a mistake coming out of the corner. Gives it right back.
He did give it right back. Oh, geez. Thank you very much, says Jason Fleischle. And then he smokes the tires getting into the hairpin, allowing Williams to catch back up just a little bit.
That was guys, he gave the position back, but he kept his car intact.
He's
that
at
was
a second.
an awesome
He's at a
save.
second. He's going to engage DR. He's got it on.
Yeah, that was a brilliant catch by him. Oh, but he clatters over the curb, keeps it out of the wall of champions. But this is going to cost him more time. Yep. He's already 2 seconds back from Fleischle. And that battling has meant Fleischle has lost touch with Schultz as well.
Yeah, Schultz able to get back in his groove. Already 3 seconds.
And apparently Williams had a slowdown penalty. He was saying over the radio. Also, I got some information that Williams is from Utah, so right next door to me.
Yeah, guys are practically neighbors.
Boy, I was telling before that battle started to kick off, is these guys, when you're driving some of the sports cars and other vehicles in iRacing at the limit, it's one thing, but when you hop into these F1 cars where the reflexes count and just hundredths of a second can make the difference, you have to be inches within the wall, and you're traveling at 150, 200 miles an hour. As we look at the battle for P4, we've got Bernie and Callisto very tight together. You really see the mettle of these drivers, and a big mistake.
A big rep behind him. Taft Baldwin.
And Aaron Stowe. Both of them off. We're going to look at the replay here, see what happened. This was contact between cars. That was a fair pass looking at that. What happened there, you see Stowe just starts to get some wheel spin mid-corner.
Yep.
And that sends him right into
Taft Baldwin. Yeah, left turn right into the side pod of Baldwin there. And poor Baldwin, he was making a good trip through and then has that contact. A little bit of damage on the car, not a whole lot. He might be okay.
Hey, let's jump up to 13th. Brian Barnes is on the back of Paul Slavonic, seeing if he can do anything. If I'm not mistaken, is Barnes pretty high up in the points himself, actually? I do know that Barnes is actually in a tight fight with Gall for the Legends Trophy, and that's for, I believe, 55 and over, if I'm not mistaken.
Now Barnes actually sitting third in points going into tonight's event. 70 points out of first place. And of course, with the trouble that Gall's had, Barnes looking at a pretty good night here if he can keep it up.
Probably not going to be able to overtake for that second, I believe. But still going to take a big chunk out of Gall. Actually, no, he's not. He's just ahead of Gall. Just one position up.
Well, Gall has had his share of excitement this evening, and he's going to have to keep the car still on the track and make it to the end here. Still quite a ways to go, Joe. We have not finished this thing yet. It's been a great race, though. I love the speed of these cars on this circuit. This is what this circuit was built for right here.
Absolutely. And small correction, it is drivers over 50 in the Legends category. I was 5 off.
I got another 7 years and I qualify, so that's
there you go.
Yeah, I'm not even going to date myself. I'm a lot closer to that than I'd like to be.
Meanwhile, David Williams is not giving up because he's right on the back of Fleischle once again. Alliance versus TNT, and they've got lap traffic in front of them. That's Wayne Hutchison. Tries to get himself out of the way. Doesn't seem to hold up Jason Fleischle, but look at the gap that Williams lost in that.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to get him before they hit that chicane either, unless he gives way.
I think Hutchison broke early. Yeah, I think he knew that Hutchison was going to let him by because he was looking to the inside from way back there. But that chopper cam gave you a good idea of the distance between these cars, and this is only about 1.5 seconds between them right now. Actually, less than that. And look at how far apart they are. That's the rate of knots that they're traveling at around this track.
Now, we talked about Troy Schultz and guessing on his strategy a little bit earlier. Now, I'm looking at my timing and scoring. Unless it's lying to me, Kyle Murphy in 7th position has not gone down pit road yet.
Yeah, you are correct about that, actually. I'm not showing Kyle has come in. Kyle out there still on track he's on his 40th lap right now. He is a lap down, but he's fighting the good fight.
Yeah, actually, Schultz just got by him a couple laps ago there, which is why I was kind of focusing in on him there and seeing where he was. So I wonder if he's playing that no-stop strategy to try to get at least a top 10 out of this.
Murphy doing his best Perez impression out there on track as he gets overtaken by Fleischle, lapped one more time.
Yeah, well, Kyle's the first car lap down currently.
It looks like Fleischle has turned the whip back up because Williams has not been able to catch him, and it's back up to about 1.5 between them. A little bit farther back, Richie Hearn's run down Wayne Hutchison. Hearn, as we mentioned a little bit earlier in the broadcast, trying to come back from mistakes. He was within half a second, and this is for 8th position.
I'm just happy to see there's so many battles for position left out here. We talked in the pre-race about there being all this calamity and attrition, and hey, we're not seeing that tonight. We still have all these cars on track.
Yeah, actually, we called Trocine as a DNF earlier, didn't we? And he's back out there.
He's back out, yeah. Brett Trocine is back on track, 12 laps down.
Wow.
So
I'm kind of shocked.
That gives us all of our runners are still out on track. Now, Trocine's 12 laps down in that beautiful Haas automation paint scheme there. Throwback, or not throwback, but a call out to the new F1 team this year, the American team. But so we have all of our runners. We've seen some calamity, guys, but we've seen these guys manage to recover from them and not mangle the cars.
And what was looking like a position for Richie Hearn has turned around as Jimbo Pfeiffer has overtaken him and moved into 9th. Pfeiffer now looks up to Kyle Murphy ahead of him, getting very close down into 1.
When you think about the trouble Pfeiffer had in the opening moments of this race, the fact that he's fought back to 9th position, he's just got to be just really on edge right now, just excited with the fact that he's been able to come through the field, literally.
A spin behind Pfeiffer. That's Richie Hearn. It looks like he made hard contact with the wall there.
I was distracted because there was a pass attempt just ahead of him.
Pfeiffer just took away the position from Kyle Murphy. He's up to 8th.
This is coming out of turn 5. Interesting that the car got away from him and he overcorrected into the barrier. I didn't know that they were so on edge through that corner.
They are. I was going to say, actually, when I was doing some practice laps earlier, that was one point I had to actually lift in that section, even though you're really not in a turn, because the amount of power in that little bit of wheel that you have in there, it'll come around on you.
Yes, it will. I talked about that earlier, actually. Yeah, you cannot go flat out through there. Maybe it can. I certainly didn't find it. It gets very, very light through that kink.
So,
I was going to say, Richie Hearn is just limping back to the pits right now.
Yeah, trying to see what he can salvage. Oh, boy. But Jimbo Pfeiffer, another driver who's had some setbacks. Remember, he started in the 3rd position on the very first lap, got into contact with David Williams. Then I believe he got into the wall, or at least had a spin later on in that first lap. And he's all the way back up to 8th place. Now he's not done yet because he's still got about a second up to Wayne Hutchison in 7th. He could still get more positions.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, really.
Jimbo Pfeiffer running that classic Gulf Fuels scheme, throwback to the 60s in the old Ford GT.
We had a pass attempt for 2nd as both cars go a little bit wide. David Williams, and they've got a car trying to come back on track. They're going to have to split them. Williams loses out a little bit, accelerating out of the hairpin. David Warner moves out of the way. Here comes Williams. He's got the DRS now.
And
looks to the inside.
All over it.
Can he get it wound up in time? Can he accelerate cleanly this time? And he does.
Nice move.
David Williams in the Wall of Champions chicane steps up to the second position after he ran into trouble in the first lap. Now what can he do on his teammate, Troy Schultz? He's got 8 seconds up to him. Whoa, and another mistake, and he gives it back again!
In the same spot he did last time.
I think it was, last time was coming out of 9, I believe. This was coming out of 4. Oh, and his tires are not looking good. He almost put it into the wall coming through 7.
He's made him angry. Those tires are definitely angry.
We're going to look on board to see how hairy this moment is. This is coming into 3. He's got the position by now. And you know what? I wonder if that lap traffic just took the air off just a little bit.
That's highly possible.
And we're going to stay on board here, coming through 6 and 7. Oh, it looks like a little bit of curb actually is what caused him to lose it. Now, speaking of making the tires angry, I wonder if the second pit stop should be coming up soon.
Yeah, if they're making them, they're going to be making them soon. We're here at lap 45, so we don't have that much farther to go.
Guys, I think Fleischle he had a little trouble coming to the Wall of Champions there. I think he got the right rear and might have kissed the wall there coming off.
Ooh.
Fleischle, again, I truly believe he's digging right now. Maybe digging a little bit too hard. He certainly might be thinking about that second stop real soon here.
You know what? I think Jason is seeing these mistakes that Williams is making and knowing that he's got to keep within touch, because if he makes a mistake, he has to be right there to be able to take advantage, even if he manages to pass him again. And we thought that we had all cars back, but I see Brett Trocine is out of his car once again. I wonder if this is for good this time. Meanwhile, Lionel Kalisto coming in for his second stop. Jimbo Pfeiffer has had 2 as well. Kalisto should be our highest 2-stopper, though. Unless Pfeiffer is able to get by, and I don't believe he will. He's coming out of the Casino hairpin now.
Yeah, he just came out of the hairpin, making his way down Casino.
Yeah, and Lionel Kalisto is exiting the pit stop now.
Yeah, it's one of those, you blink and you miss the pit stop, because these stops are so fast. It doesn't even give the drivers that chance to close their eyes and kind of stretch out their fingers. Nope, 2 seconds and you're on it again.
Oh, and Fleischle had a problem. Looks like he over-accelerated coming out of turn 2, that Senna S hairpin.
Avoided catastrophe there by the looks of it. Doesn't look like he made any contact, but definitely lost some time for sure.
And now he gives it back. Oh, Jimbo Pfeiffer off just behind him. Jimbo Pfeiffer having trouble in 6. Oh, he's in reverse. He's got traffic coming through. Got to be really careful. Still more traffic coming through. He's trying to get it turned around in front of traffic coming.
We're on replay right now, watching him, and he just barely taps the front wing, so I think he's able to carry on.
Yeah, the wing's pretty bad, actually. He's able to carry on, but the wing is in really bad shape.
Yeah, I think as he's approaching the hairpin, going to go down that fast straight. If he doesn't come in the pits when he hits that Casino chicane there, that Wall of Champions chicane, we'll see how damaged that front wing is if he doesn't come in.
And Jason Fleischle's tires have cried enough. He's into the pits himself after that spin, but it might be too little too late.
Jimbo Pfeiffer stays on track, guys.
Yeah, and I watched him go through that chicane, and it didn't look like he was too compromised with the arrow, so maybe it's not as bad as we think.
Well, and it's not necessarily something you can see from the cockpit either. Unless someone's giving you feedback or you've got somebody spotting, you really don't know you had that damage unless you're handling just really bad.
Oh, I was going to say, as an open wheel racer, you don't need somebody to tell you got front wing damage, because when you go into some of these corners hard, the car will tell you.
Yeah, you'll figure it out quick for sure, yeah.
All right, so Jason Fleischle came in third. He exits in third. Whoa, we have a car on top of its lid. Christopher Sherburne. Oh, wow. I'm not sure if this was a hardware failure or what, but coming into 8, you're going to see it right here. That car simply doesn't respond to anything.
Wow. It just didn't turn. Like, I mean, that looked like what, you might see with a stuck throttle or some sort of linkage problem between you and the steering, or he just fell asleep at the wheel.
Thank goodness there was nobody in front of him.
Wow, that was a very, very hard shunt. Car does wind up back on its wheels, but yeah, I'm afraid that's might be the end of any real chance at this race. Now, Chris was already 2 laps down, but that car is in pretty bad shape.
All right, next time by, it'll be 20 to go. And, whoa, Troy Schultz actually has a tight moment there on the back of Rob Gall. So he is not out of the woods yet. He has to get this car to the end despite his 14-second lead over his teammate, David Williams. And the way the racing has gone today, I really wouldn't put it past any of our leaders to make a mistake and throw the race away here in the final moments.
Well, get through 2 guys that are fighting each other right now also.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Joe, I mean, this is about as far into the first run that we saw Troy start to have some problems and have a couple of spins and a couple of self-induced errors there. So maybe this is right around the time when those tires might start to be getting a little bit angry with him. So we'll have to watch that.
Meanwhile, I was looking at a battle we've got between Barnes and Slavonic. And in fact, Jimbo Pfeiffer's not too far behind this as well. Could see a 3-car battle. This is for the last spot in the top 10 for these guys.
That's really the best battle left on track.
That's when I looked through the timing and scoring, that's the only guys that I saw very close to each other within striking distance. As we've seen, that can change. We've got, as you like to say on the oval side there, Sean, comers and goers.
Yeah, we do.
Whoa, and here goes Pfeiffer, sending it in deep down into 6. Can he make it stick, though? Yes, he does.
Fleischle right there, just behind them. Got a front seat ticket to the show, boys.
Trying to be patient. Pfeiffer moving over, letting him through, giving him the preferred line down the hairpin.
That was a nice job by Pfeiffer there. Like he gave him just the right amount of room without really compromising his own speed. That was a great job by Jimbo to get out of the way there.
Absolutely, and now he's going to get DRS too, if I'm not mistaken.
The flap, she is open.
Boy, yeah, it's open, but he's not using any boost. Saving a little bit there, maybe. Maybe going to try and let Jason get by.
Fleischle got right up on the back of Slavonic down into the wall of champion chicane. Didn't make any contact, but there was a few inches between them, that's for sure. Not missing much out front. Troy Schultz still leads by 13.5 seconds. Williams in second. Fleischle, after his second stop, is in third. Ooh, and Pfeiffer almost getting in the back of Fleischle.
Yeah, I was going to say, as much as Jimbo got out of the way and gave Fleischle the room, he has said, you know what, I'm going to let you go, and I'm just going to follow you through, because he is just on his tail, although a lap car gets between them now.
Oh, and there you go. Slavonic is under threat. Is he going to stay defensive? Pfeiffer trying to look for that just a little bit of room. They both go all the way to the inside. Pfeiffer still finds some spot. They get a car off ahead of them. That's Kyle Murphy. Stays out of the way. And Pfeiffer might have it, but look, the slipstream goes back to Slavonic. Pfeiffer tries to go defensive, just cuts off the line. Goes back wide, though. Here comes Slavonic. Side by side down into the braking. You can't go too wide through there, and Pfeiffer has to give it up. Great battle between these two.
Wow. That's got my head spinning. Pfeiffer,
awesome.
amazing. Pfeiffer able to hang on to the goal. Pfeiffer right back to the rear.
Awesome respect between these guys. Very hard. You look at how tightly they squeezed each other, but fair racing, I have to say.
Fair racing, but I mean, there was a little bit of extra movement there, and I wonder if the stewards, might look at that. But the fact that Jimbo didn't get the position, I think they'll let it slide. But it almost looked a little blockish to me, but not too blatant.
Well, it's not over yet. Pfeiffer's got a run out of 7. He's looking to the inside, down into 8. Outbreaks him cleanly, but can he get it turned in? Yes, he does. Slavonic with no answer coming out of 9, and he's got Michael Thompson behind him. I don't believe that's for position.
It is
no, that's not.
No, Michael Thompson back down in 19th. But he's certainly in the mix. Slavonic now losing a little bit there.
Well, he's going to have the DRS, but I don't think he's close enough. Or is he? Look at him gain. Remember, we got a little bit of damage on Pfeiffer's front wing. I wonder if that's hurting him in a straight line.
You're not going to go on the outside there, are you?
Ooh, he is. And he makes it stick to boot. Slavonic saying, you can't tell me which side I can or cannot pass on.
Yeah, I was going to say, apparently he did not read the rule book of Montreal that says you cannot make that move on the outside and make it stick, because he certainly did.
It looks like, Pfeiffer just continues to close in the braking zone. He's a lot more confident slowing the car down, but just doesn't have the aero, unfortunately, to run away. And still, this is the closest battle on track. Meanwhile, David Williams comes in for his stop. Second one of the day for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, Williams in, so that gives Schultz a little bit more breathing room, although he's probably going to be making that other stop, although he stopped right around halfway, so he might be trying to stretch it out.
I tell you what, I think Pfeiffer might be thinking a little bit hard under the helmet there, because he got the run out of 9, but did not try to pass because he knew the DRS would be given right back to Slavonic. And look at this, even with the DRS, he's losing ground in a straight line.
Well, remember, he does have that damage from that spin earlier, so that's probably affecting that car with that straightaway speed.
Williams comes out ahead of Fleischle. It's about a 2-second gap between them. So despite Fleischle's mistake, he's not too far behind after their second and hopefully final stops are done. 17 to go, boys.
Yeah, 17 laps to go. And as we've seen already in this race, anything can and maybe will happen before it's over. Nothing assured for Troy Schultz yet at all.
No, but I mean, we've got just the 16 to go and 44-second lead for Schultz without having to make that stop. I mean, does he nurse it and try to make it to the end, or with a 44-second gap, does he just come in now because he can probably make that stop and get out ahead of Williams?
It was about 13, 14 seconds ahead of Williams before the stop. As I see off-screen, Bob Beltrami has a moment coming out of the hairpin. And that, once again, was due to wheel spin.
No surprise there.
But with that 14-second gap, I do think he could come in for a stop, a safety stop, and still make it to the end with the win, as long as he doesn't make any mistakes, though. Oh, and did Fleischle just overtook Williams? I'm trying to see where that happened. Oh, Williams had a slowdown in the final chicane. He outbroke himself and even took it over that yellow curb. That's going to not help the car very much.
No, you can certainly do damage to these cars hitting those curbs too hard.
But look at Williams. He's still right up behind Fleischle. Oh, he's struggling. Williams is hurting.
He overdrove that entry there for sure. He is struggling.
That's 2 corners within 1 lap where he overshot it. Now, he just changed his tires. This is unusual. I would think he would have much better grip unless he's simply overdriving the car.
Well, I mean, we talked about it before. I mean, these cars are very aerosensitive, so being right up on Fleischle's bumper there could have taken a little bit of air off the front, a little bit of front grip loss, tires not quite warmed up because he just made his pit stop, so that probably all contributed to those little bit of mistakes there.
Guys, Sam Boren in the hairpin, the number 65, under threat from our leader, Troy Schultz. He is the last car on the lead lap. Boren sitting in P5. Schultz had a little trouble getting out of the hairpin. He had to get off the power, get the car settled.
So I'm wondering how many we'll see on the lead lap at the
Schultz
end of this.
Right out of the last turn, he's into the wall.
We said it earlier, you cannot count this thing over until the checkered flag, and that's a hard hit. We're going to see it in the
and he
replay.
had to take a tow.
Could we see Fleischle take his second win? Last time was it the Daytona 2.4. Can he do it in the F1 car?
That's gonna be a long hold too, because he'd already come past the pit entry. That's gonna be a full lap tow, Joe.
Oh, heartbreak for Troy Schultz. He's already down to 6th. He should have had this thing wrapped up, but the lead
and Williams
is
just
changing.
went around Fleischle.
That was in the DRS zone down to the chicane. Well, guys, we thought it was going to be a battle for P2 until the end, but it's going to be a battle for the lead. Can Williams hold out this time? Can he hold off Fleischle and keep the mistakes away? He's thrown it away. How many times now? 4?
At least, but both have shown the propensity to make a mistake. Oh, Williams hanging it out on the ragged edge there. Coming out of that chicane, almost slaps the wall. Got to handle and manage this left-hander. Back to the right. Fleischle just going to have to hang on here.
All right. Schultz is back out, but he is in 4th, I'm seeing, so I was incorrect before about counting him in 6th. Timing and scoring just making an error for a moment.
How did I was with Sean on that one. I thought that would have been a much longer tow than that.
You know, maybe it's not dependent on where the entrance is, but simply where your pit stall is.
Maybe the guys just threw a crane over the wall, threw it in the pit stop,
Yeah,
and
there
said,
you go.
"Here's your new car, go."
All right, as we look back from Williams, though, it's already a second difference between himself and Fleischle. Now, Fleischle got the DRS, so he closed it in to within about 0.6. Once again, easy for me to say. He's going to get it one more time here down the front stretch, but still, he's about 0.8 back. I really think that Williams has the legs on him here.
You know, and looking at Schultz, he is not that far back from Kyle Burney, who I believe is still on a one-stop strategy right now. So after that big moment, Schultz could still end up on the podium here.
Wow. It's disappointing, I'm sure, but still impressive that he's had multiple spins. He had to take a tow at one point. I'm sure he's in his spare car now. And yet still looking likely to get onto the 3rd step of the podium. These TNT guys are just incredible in these high downforce open wheel cars.
I'm back to following Fleischle, guys. He's still working on David Williams, not making up any ground yet. He knows how much time he has left. He'll get back up to speed. I think
he was outside of the DRS zone too.
Yeah, he is now, definitely.
He was even coming out of the casino chicane, I believe, because he was about 1.2 back, so that's why he wasn't able to gain ground coming down the straightaway. Meanwhile, 3rd position under threat. Here comes Troy Schultz down into the braking zone. A little bit timid that time. 12 to go. He's got time to make the pass. And Kyle Burney actually told him he's going to give him the inside. He doesn't want to fight. He wants to get to the end of this race. Would like to see a little bit more guts from Burney, but I can understand this car is probably so tough he's not interested in throwing it away right at the end.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, Bernie, as we mentioned, only has the one stop, so he's on the older tires. Plus, I mean, Schultz has had a
guys,
blanket.
battle back here. Jimbo Pfeiffer just gets by Wayne Hutchinson for position. Sorry, that was a lot to get out.
We're going to look at the replay. This was coming out of turn 9.
Yeah, Pfeiffer putting down the power and gets by Wayne Hutchinson.
There you see it on the replay. Did Hutchinson actually give it up? Because he moved over very early. Or was that a bobble?
I
think Hutchinson gave it up.
I think he bobbled just a little bit. Now, they weren't communicating at all. And again, he just... Jimbo took advantage of that and got right by him. And now Jimbo is gone. I mean, he's opened it up pretty quick on him. Now, Jimbo Pfeiffer, first car a lap down. And gets another position. So Jimbo's still fighting hard here in the closing laps of this race, Joe.
Oh, and Ray Partridge, whose last car running, has put it into the wall coming out of 8. He gets it going again, though, as he's overtaken by our leader, Williams. Now, we should note that even though David Williams was last year's champion, he does not have a win yet this season. This would be his first one since, I'm trying to remember when, I want to say the last F1 race, actually.
Which, watching these guys is amazing to me because we know the talent that Williams has, and he's always in the mix. He's always in the conversation. So it's I'm surprised he hasn't had a win yet this season.
I'm sure. I remember him being very close in some of the Predator races, which suit him well in those sports cars. He doesn't like the ovals as much, although he's been faring a little bit better than usual in those. In fact, we should note, if he wins this one, that'll mean the last 3 F1 races in the Pacific Majors have all been won by Williams. Talk about a dominant force here in this top echelon of racing.
Yeah, I think you probably say he's one of those guys that has all the buttons we've been talking about this evening and all the different settings, probably utilizing the maximum output of that McLaren machine. And it shows. I mean, he's able to get away from the field every time he gets back in a groove. He's able to open it right back up again. Ooh, little trouble there in the hairpin there from Williams.
Well, even still, even with that trouble, with 10 to go, he's got 3.5, almost 4 seconds over Fleischle. He is not under threat, although he has to keep it together. We've seen him throw it away a few times, and he does have to deal with traffic. We watched his teammate, Troy Schultz, lead dominantly for pretty much this entire race, only to throw it into the wall here right at the end and give it up. And there's the lap traffic of Rob Gall jumping out of the way. There we see Troy Schultz, though, sitting in 3rd. It just cannot be counted as over. And look at the dark racing line that's starting to come in some of these corners.
Yeah, definitely. I've been watching Fleischle, and while he looks like he's struggling, like I've been kind of watching him being really loose in these corners, but the last 5 laps have been the fastest laps he's done all race, so he's not struggling, he's pushing.
Well, keep in mind, these guys do not refuel at any point into the race, so this is the lightest the car has been the whole race long. So,
yep. Good point, Joe.
That's going to help his lap times.
We do see those faster laps at the end, but man, he seems to be loose every corner, so he is definitely pushing it.
A quick shot of Brian Barnes here. He's on the inside of Slavonic. These two have been battling before. Can Barnes get it turned in? Nice and tidy at both apexes. Gets it accelerating away cleanly. Give P9 to Brian Barnes.
Another car that might, Lionel Kalisto might have a shot at the top 5. He's catching Sam Bourne just a little bit at a time. He was 4 seconds faster on that last lap. Kalisto really starting to really get comfortable, I think. And, Sam's got some traffic right there in front of him that he's going to have to work through. So could be a good chance for Lionel Kalisto to close the gap right now. as he just got out of the hairpin, and he heads down the long straight into the Wall of Champions. Final chicane.
And of course,
And Troy Schultz just got tipped. He gets hit. He's into the wall.
Oh,
I was just keeping an eye on that. He was dealing with traffic. That was Paul Slavonic that he was trying to get by. We'll see here into 3 and 4. He has the inside. And unfortunately, I think just tight quarters through there meant that it was a little bit too tight and they made contact.
and then it looks like he just drifted into Michael Lane as well. Like he didn't hold the brakes. He just kind of sailed across.
Oof. Yeah, Lane actually slid off in sympathy into that same wall behind them. So I think, yeah, Lane was trying to get out of the way, and 2 damaged cars. It looks like a weird connection between them there as you see them ghost into each other.
And that might knock Schultz out of the race altogether.
Yep. His spare car is gone.
He had to take that one free repair already.
Yeah, and he got some good airtime there, so...
Yep, he's gone. Troy Schultz has disconnected from the server. Whew. What a turnaround this race has seen. Who would have thought after the first 2 turns that David Williams would not only come back to the podium, but regain the lead and look like he's going to have a serious chance at winning this race. There we see our leader, the appropriately numbered number 1 car.
Well, the battle for 5th between Lionel Kalisto and Sam Boren has turned into a battle for 4th place now, and you know, Kalisto done some pretty good work to catch him. Bourne having a little bit of trouble working through and navigating the traffic. Kalisto now just behind. He's got Bob Beltrami just in front of him. That's not a battle for position.
Now, how about a shout out to Kyle Burney, because that bumps him back up into 3rd as well. He is on the podium. Now, I'm trying to recall if he's ever actually been on the podium in the Pacific Majors, because I'm not used to seeing Kyle this far up the field. I was surprised to see in qualifying that he was doing so well. Obviously, he likes his car, and he's proving he's good, he's consistent, he's quick enough to take these spots. And in about 6 laps' time, if he can hold it together, he can taste some champagne.
Well, I'll tell you what, hats off to Kyle Burney. He's had to fight through some pretty serious connection issues early in this race, Joe. I don't know if you remember that, but
I do, yeah.
Yeah, he has overcome that to find himself right now possibly looking at a podium. Ooh, Sam Bourne with trouble coming off the turn. Coming onto the hairpin. Sam Bourne had a little bit of trouble. Lionel Kalisto closing it up just a bit.
I wonder if Sam Bourne is starting to feel the pressure as he comes out of 7 there. Kalisto running him down. Another Alliance driver trying to see how many points he can get his team today.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Boren went from looking at the relative saying he was getting close to seeing him in his mirror as Kalisto has a little bit of a moment, which is going to give Boren a little bit of breathing space as they head down towards that hairpin. But Kalisto is there, guys, and I think he's going to get him.
He's got 5 laps to do it. I think that's enough time if his pace has allowed him to close in from... How far back was it, Sean, before?
Kalisto was a good 8.5 seconds back at one point.
Yeah, I'd say he's probably going to catch him unless we see a mistake out of Lionel.
Well, the traffic definitely definitely
Bernie's
helped.
off. Bernie is off and into the wall.
Oh, no.
Commentator's curse on Kyle Burney.
Wow.
That was coming out of turn 2, and once again, the wheel spin of these powerful McLarens teaches another driver a lesson in throttle control.
And he is in a bad spot trying to limp that car back. I think he should just take a tow. He is crab walking horribly.
He just got past the pit exit. Got a long way to get around.
Yeah, you're right. I think he's going to have to take that tow, especially around a blind corner like 5 there. Thankfully, he's out of the way as he slips down the order. So moves Sam Boren up into 3rd, but can he hold on to it because Lionel Kalisto is coming up?
Yeah, but honestly, I stayed on Kalisto. We're talking about the misfortune back there. Kalisto digging hard, but keeps making a mistake or two. And, Kalisto just had to get by Kyle Burney, who's still trying to crawl back around. Sorry, guys, I wasn't live.
Kalisto is making a move, looking at into the chicane.
Look at
backs
Kalisto.
off.
Locks him up. Oh, and he clatters over the curb. That's going to cost him a lot of time. He's now a whole second back. We got some information from the stewards. The incident between Schultz and Slavonic while he was trying to lap Slavonic is going to be deemed a racing incident. So no action taken there as well. And we heard on the radio that Schultz was not happy about that happening. I can understand why. So Kalisto is closed back in. He's not wasting time. He's now within half a second. 3 to go, guys. He's running out of time to make it happen. Oh, and a big mistake from Boren coming through 8. Unfortunately, Kalisto cannot take advantage. His momentum is interrupted. He looks to the outside, down into Casino. Can he pull the over-under? I don't think he's going to be able to do it around the outside. But look at Boren parking it on the apex, denying him the opportunity.
But of course, Kalisto's going to have that DRS flap open. There it goes. He gets the extra horsepower from the lack of downforce. He's probably on that boost button. Is in the inside. He's got to get it woed up.
Oh. He doesn't hit the curbs this time. Yeah, and look at him. And Boren not happy about that move.
Nah, I'm sorry, Sam. You had to know that was coming.
I was going to say 3 laps to go. I think I would have expected it. And I don't know what he's talking about. That's a very popular place to make a pass.
Maybe Sam hasn't watched a lot of races from here.
I was just going to say, he needs to watch the last Canadian Grand Prix.
Sam's still having trouble. He had trouble in our favorite spot back there.
Yep, Boren was a little bit loose there, keeps it together. He's probably steaming under the collar a little bit by losing that position so close to the end of the race.
Yeah, he's got to make sure the red mist doesn't cost him more positions. 4th is still going to do him really well in the championship, and especially for, I believe that's riding shotgun, isn't that? Yeah, that is. That's a riding shotgun car, so that's going to help those guys in their 5th position in the points.
And just to update any Kyle Burney fans out there, he is back out on track with his new car. He did manage to get it back. I didn't think he would, but he did, and saved himself the toes, back on track.
The sad news is, though, he is all the way down in 11th. What was looking like a podium is way out of the question at this point. And our podium at the moment is David Williams leading with 2 to go. Fleischle, 13 seconds back.
I'm sorry, Boren got a run on Kalisto right down to the wall of the final chicane. Had to check it up. Kalisto gets away. Those two are still battling Boren, not giving up on that memory of the past by Kalisto.
Yeah, and they've got Mike Franklin ahead of them, lap traffic. He's going to hold them up just for a little bit, but we've got the white flag out for David Williams. Kalisto being very much held up.
Yeah, he looked like he was going to make the move to get around and didn't make it happen, which got Boren a little bit closer.
And Franklin's got to be aware this time. Come on, buddy, lift. There we go. He's going to say, don't hold these guys up. This is a serious battle for a podium spot. And unfortunately, Boren, I don't think Franklin did anything wrong there, but Boren caught him in a bad place there in 8 and 9. Ahead into the DRS section, but I think Boren is too far back. He's going to get a whiff of it, but not going to be close enough. Just behind them, though. This is how far ahead our leader is. That's the battle for the podium on the backstretch, and here's the leader on the backstretch. 2 more corners to go for David Williams. He won at Monza. He won at Interlagos, both of those in 2015. Come 2016, in the F1 car in the Pacific Majors, you can hand it to David Williams' 3rd win in a row in the F1 car.
Joe, I'm going to continue to follow this battle between Kalisto and Boren. Still got a lap to get around here.
And ahead of them, though, Jason Fleischle, a good run. He was looking at a potential win, but it wasn't to be. Second place still hard-earned for Jason Fleischle after starting in 4th. Callisto has about 1.2 seconds over Boren. Boren has got a boogie if he wants to get into that DRS zone.
I don't think he has it. They needed a little bit more off of that hairpin there, and I think Callisto is going to run away with it unless he makes a mistake in these last 2 corners.
Well, it's not a 1-2, but it's looking like a 2-3 for our Alliance Racing drivers. Callisto comes through the final chicane, nice and smooth, and Callisto is going to round out our podium. That should be the last cars on the lead lap, I believe.
It is. Although, big shout out to Jimbo Pfeiffer there. I mean, making that big recovery and finishing in what looks to be 5th position.
Yeah,
Or is
no,
it
I'm showing
sixth,
6th.
actually?
Yeah,
Yeah.
6th, but what a great recovery by several guys. Really, to come back and persevere after some early trouble in this race. But, Williams, Fleischle, Callisto, Sam Boren, the only 4 cars that managed to stay on the lead lap, and those guys put on quite a show for us.
All right, so there was our race here in Canada, the 7th round of the Volt Vapes Pacific Majors. We're going to come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Also on screen, we are going to have the upcoming races here on the Global Sim Racing channel, including the next round here in the Pacific Majors. And stick around because we're going to have a special announcement about the upcoming race at Spa. So stay here to hear what we have in store for that. We'll be back in a moment.
Hi, my name is Donovan Johns. I'm the owner-operator of Volt Vapes here in Boise, Idaho. We opened our first location inside the Boise Town Square Mall in February of 2013, and our second location we opened up on the corner of Fairview and Milwaukee in May of 2013. One of the things that we specialize here is in the entry-level and mid-level range hardware and equipment for beginning vapors to really get the concept of vaping down and to feel confident in their education level so they're not going to be inundated or overwhelmed with some of the higher end mods. One of the things we also do here is we have the build your own kits, which you can pick any of our entry-level, mid-level batteries and tanks and assemble it into your own kit so you can take home exactly what it is you're looking for when you leave the store.
Welcome back to the Canadian Grand Prix here for the Pacific Majors, and you watched it live on the Global Sim Racing channel. After an incredible climb through the field from an early mistake, David Williams managed to come back and take the win in a dominant fashion, 14 seconds ahead of Jason Fleischle, who valiantly, you have to say, tried to hold him off, but unfortunately just did not have the pace. Lionel Kalisto rounds out the podium. It was a late charge from him. He made the pass with, I believe it was 2 laps to go possibly, and gets himself into third. Sam Boren, also a valiant effort, but unfortunately he comes home in fourth, doesn't get to taste the champagne today. Jimbo Pfeiffer, the other driver that was caught up in that incident in the first corner with David Williams, he rallied back, not as high, but still to a top 5 finish. Brian Barnes came home with a 6th, and Wayne Hutchinson comes home in 7th. Brian Bennett was your 8th place finisher, Bob Beltrami in 9th, and Kyle Burney was looking like a sure thing for a podium. Unfortunately, a mistake from him sends him down the order. He at least gets a top 10 today, Trevor.
In 11th position, we have Paul Slavonic, who had that contact with Troy Schultz there, which cost Schultz that potential podium finish from a recovery there. In 12th position, we had Kyle Murphy, who I believe made it on a no-stop strategy, so that worked out for him because he started way down the field in 23rd. Richie Hearn finished in 13th, despite a couple of incidents here and there. Rob Gall, we talked about him an awful lot, and he finished in 14th position. Michael Thompson had that penalty early on and managed to recover to finish in 15th position. David Warner in 16th. Taft Baldwin in 17th. Christopher Sherburne, after a big shunt, finished in 18th position. In 19th, we had Michael Lane and Mike Franklin finished in 20th position.
And boy, now we find out where Troy Schultz winds up finishing this race. Troy ran away with this thing all night. Has to settle for 21st place, 8 laps down. Gonna give it to Clark Archer, 22nd. Ray Partridge was still on track there at the end, 23rd. Aaron Stowe, 24th. And Brett Trozine, 38 laps down, 25th.
So that is our grid, and we do have a special announcement to make. It's not the next round. Next round is going to be at the Brickyard, but coming up after that is the 4 Hours of Spa, and they're going to have a very special format here in the Pacific Majors. We're announcing it here for the first time. They're going to do it in 2 segments. The first segment is going to be 75 minutes long, and it's going to be at night. If you've never seen a dark track, boy, you got to watch a night race at Spa. Then they're going to stop things, have a 15-minute break, and then they'll have segment 2 for 165 minutes in the morning light. So, and if you're wondering how that works, obviously segment 2 will be gridded based on the results of segment 1. So, if you wreck it at the very start and you can't use your spare car for whatever reason, you can start 60th, but you'll be on the lead lap as well. However, just to give them some incentive, there's a 15 bonus point for winning segment 1. But there are only points awarded other than those bonus points in segment 2. So guys will need to be worrying about where they are at the very end. So it sounds like, unfortunately, we won't get to talk to Lionel Kalisto today. So if you're out there listening and you were in this race, come on out. We'll still get to interview more than just our podium today, because Kalisto had to head out for hockey practice. I think I read correctly there. So let's talk to our winner in the meantime, David Williams. It's been a bit. In fact, it's been since he last won at Interlagos in a different F1 car. And I have to ask, David, how does that FW31 compare to this McLaren MP430?
Hey, Joe. Yeah, that FW431 is a lot more nimble than this car. This car's, I don't know, man, this thing's a tank. It's a lot different.
Yeah, we certainly saw that. It seemed like grip was at a premium out there, guys struggling to get the power down. Now, it seemed like you had a few problems trying to make the pass on Jason Fleischle and make it stick. Was it just having trouble keeping it from spinning out of the corners, or what was the problem in keeping ahead of him?
Well, the first time I got around him going through that second chicken there, I just lost the rear end. You know, I took a different angle because of how I had to pass him, and just compromised my exit angle, and you know that just caused me to lose the rear end. The second time, I got loose coming out of the other one because there was a lap car right in front of me, and I wanted to see who it was so I know how slow they were going to go into turn 5. And I looked up as I was exiting turn 3, and it's not a good idea to look up away from the track when you're on power. So anyway, that's kind of what happened.
Gotcha. Yeah, I cannot imagine all that there is to handle in these cars, especially at those high speeds. Now, on the first lap and pretty much the first corner, you and Jimbo Pfeiffer came together, and that's what set you back originally. The marshals, the stewards, deemed it a racing incident, but what was your take on that?
Initially, I thought Jimbo hit me, but I didn't say anything. I never try to pop off until I can go back and look at a replay. And afterwards, I looked, and it looks like I left him enough room, but I definitely didn't leave him any extra room. So I would definitely take, I'll say 50% of that blame there. I think it looked like he might have got a little tight, and I kind of left him, just one car width there. So I'll say that's 50-50 on both of us.
Well, you had a little bit of luck to get you back up to P1 with your teammate, unfortunately having some problems in the race, but still you come home with a win, you get the trophy, you get the champagne. I take it you're satisfied with that.
I'm happy to win. I can't lie, but I'd be more happy to be in second place right now if that meant Troy was up here on the podium too. So I would gladly take that for my teammate there. But anyway, here before you guys get me out here, I want to say thanks to our TNT Racing team. Come by at tnt-racing.com. Check us out. Check out our special promos we got with GTR simulators and Allenberg Racing Schools. And go check out Sim Racing Bay. The guys that sell OSWs. That's what I'm running, and I tell you can't beat that OSW. Tomo's a good guy, too. He'll take care of you.
Excellent stuff. That was David Williams, our winner here today at Montreal. Up next, we have our second place finisher, Jason Fleischle, championship leader. And I'd have to check to see what the points are going to look like after this. But I believe there was some debate whether Trevor or Sean is going to be talking to him. Did we settle that debate?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and talk to Jason. Right. I got a couple questions for him. Jason, what a great race. You get a podium finish. You were leading coming into tonight. You're going to be leading on the way out. So altogether, a pretty good day here at Montreal, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, big picture-wise, absolutely. That's why I kind of backed off at the end to say, hey, slow down, finishing ahead of Troy. David's sitting back in 5th right now. Go ahead and let him have this one, or maybe he'll let me have it if he goes off again. And, just big picture and just cruised in. And, man, that had to have been a pretty exciting race. I mean, from my viewpoint, it was a little more exciting than the real-life ones.
Yeah, no, it certainly was. Agreed. Now, there was a lot of action out there today, and you were in the thick of it all day. And talk to us a little bit about the strategy as far as, obviously we know you couldn't take any fuel, but were the tires, were they crying? Did they really need to be changed? I mean, we saw several different strategies being played out here today, yeah. But how did it feel for you?
It depended. It depended on how hard you had to push them, how much DRS you got to use, how much brake bias you had to do, and if you were making mistakes, if you were locking them up on entry or an exit, because you could spin them on exit. It just depended on how, if you were able to take care of them or not. And so we kind of had to play it by ear. After about 20 laps, it gets a little squirrely either way. But it was possible to do a one-stop on that. But I just played it by ear. I was either going to do what the leader did or just do it by feel of the car and try to go at least, no more than 2 stops. That was my strategy.
Right. Yeah, well, and I want to ask you, because you certainly provided me with a lot of information going into this race. I'm curious, because going in, I really began to wonder, all right, so how many guys are really trying to use this car to maximum efficiency for power and for grip, and where do you sit on that? I mean, are you working just about every range of adjustment you can make with your MGU settings and with your ERS settings?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much. So, I mean, there's a lot of settings on the car. Probably the most important is the acquisition setting. So how aggressive the kinetic response will recharge the battery. And if you have it full max, then it adds a lot of braking force into it, right? So I set that at max, left it there, but I did have 2 buttons mapped to be able to go down or up on the amount of deployment for the battery power, and pretty much just bounce around between 4 and 6. 4 would give me a nice fast lap that I needed to without draining the battery completely, leaving me push to pass if I needed it, which I used to get around lap traffic quite a few times today. Or 5 would stay pretty steady. So you get nice consistent lap times on 5, pretty good tire wear on that, and then set it to 6 to recharge the battery a bit.
Well, and now did you ever the push to pass? Did you ever go to that, or did you really just work with your DRS and try and save that energy?
I didn't get to deploy DRS nearly as much as I thought I would be in this race. Pretty much just got, by lap traffic, by luck of it. But yeah, absolutely. I had a DRS button mapped. I used it every single time it was available to me. And push to pass just a couple times when I was battling with David, trying to maintain that second gap so he didn't get DRS a couple times then. And like I said, to get around lap traffic that wasn't yielding. And there was a lot of that in this race. There was, most of the guys were good. They obey the blue flags, but there was a couple that weren't in the race, but they were racing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we do know what you mean. But hey, Jason, great race today. Very happy for you. Congratulations. I know Joe was going to try and do some number crunching, but I do think your lead in the points is still secure. So
yeah,
we'll try and verify that. But congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you at the Brickyard, sir.
Oh, thanks, guys. I can't wait to watch this one.
And that was Jason Fleischle. He finished in second place tonight, the number 77 McLaren MP430. Had a great run tonight, Joe.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, those are the only 2 interviews we've got. But the good news about that is we got 2 really good in-depth interviews. I learned a lot, actually, about what these guys were doing out there and what it's like to drive these cars. But we want to close up, and obviously before we go, as always, we want to thank a few people. Of course, thank you again to Volt Vapes. Go to voltvapes.com and check them out and what they have to offer. And also thank you to the Mario Andretti Racing Experience for affiliating themselves with the Pacific Majors. Go check them out at AndrettiRacing.com, I believe it is. Yes, AndrettiRacing.com is the address for them. Thanks to Mike Willett. He is the organizer of the Pacific Majors. In fact, he played the role of steward today, live steward, and made sure everybody stayed clean out on track. And anybody who wasn't was sure to get punished and get at least a little slap on the wrist along the way. But I don't think he had to do that to anybody today, since we didn't really have any steward decisions that we heard of. Thanks to the software and hardware that we use for our broadcast. You can see those listed on your screen. Additional thanks to our musical contributors, Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde. You can find their music listed at the websites there on your screen as well. Thanks to the team today, Trevor, Sean, Amjed, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and upcoming broadcasts. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. Next race, as was mentioned, it's going to be the Brickyard 400 back to Indianapolis. We were there just a round ago. It doesn't seem that long ago. That'll be Sunday, July 17th, and that kicks off at 8:45 p.m. Eastern. If you guys are on the Pacific Coast, since I know a lot of our drivers are going to be watching this later, that'll be at 5:45 p.m. Pacific. We also have upcoming races for other series on screen. Check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.